for museum and cultural programs. And then there is close to $4 million for culture, a program called Cultural Fields Florida. So, so that's really exciting. In the case of the culture and museum grants, it's 50% of the ask. So it's 50 cents on the dollar that you, if you've asked for $50,000, you will get $25,000. So it's not fully funded yet with the legislature, but we're working our way back up. I think it was the last time that these funds were fully granted was in 2014, is when the legislature funded 100%. So we're in a good place. We're getting better, but it's really important to advocate for your organizations and the impact that you make within our community. There is veto power that the governor has, but again, we know that these grants have been fully vetted by professionals throughout the state. Last year, the total request, if you look at the top line, 43 million, almost 44 million, 13.6 million was awarded. So we've gone from 13.6 million last year to 23 million and change. So in that general program support. For the last year, for specific cultural projects, we went from 2.8, 2.9 to close to just over 4 million, I think is what it was in the line item. So we're doing great. We're doing better. We're doing better because we know that culture really does build Florida, and it creates a more creative environment. So as I was talking about the timeline, applications open, June 1st, that deadline is key. Staff, the DCA staff reviews the grant to make sure that you are eligible. There's some things that you have to do to make sure that you qualify for the grant. And then in September, August and September, there is a panel review of all the grants that have met the threshold, and then a final list is submitted for the budget. If you happen to get the 80% or above on your grant, the grants in total will go to the legislature for budget, and like today we're in the cycle, it'll be in the process, and the awards will be announced, and you will have access to your funds July 1st of 2022. So it's not funds that if you need them today, this is not the grant that you want to write. Each organization and artist has to have either a tax ID or a EIN number, employer, in order to submit a grant. And for artists, the only grant that they can apply for is the specific cultural projects. Nonprofits or 501c3s may also apply for cultural endowment, cultural facilities, and fast track. And those details are on the website. We're not going to cover them today, but you might want to look at them at another time. Any organization that has a budget over $750,000 requires an audit from the state of Florida. Again, these are public dollars, and they just want to make sure that that you are good stewards of those dollars. There are some great organizations who can apply for general program support. There are examples there, and this is specifically for general program support for nonprofit organizations. There are other opportunities for those who do not meet the definition of arts and cultural are civic organizations, private pre-K schools, parks and recreation, libraries. So there, like I said, there's other funds available. So the general program support for organizations, there are several types. If you are, just to give you an example, multidisciplinary means that you are a garden, a science or nature center, and the role is if you are, if 50% or more of your programming is presenting, then you need to look at a discipline-based program support. So when you open the grant, you'll see all these different levels as a nonprofit. When you register, so you'll click off whatever you think is most like the discipline that you want to apply for. And if you have any questions, you can pick up the phone and talk to the staff member that serves this particular discipline. I talked a little bit about programs support and requests. As a first-time recipient, the threshold is $25,000, and that's both for artists and nonprofits.
So the threshold is 25,000. If you were granted at that level, you're still only going to get 50% of that.
If it's there's no guarantee, because you will, it's really what the legislature allocates. They may only put, for instance, say there's $50 million worth of requests through those organizations that met that threshold, that were on the list, and they only allocate 20 million. Then they'll go through and prorate each of the organizations.
Yeah, I understand that, but the maximum you can apply for is the 25,000.
Correct.
It's not what you receive is the 25,000
Correct.
max.
Correct. Correct.
Right.
And once you've gone through one full grant cycle, and if your budget is larger, you can ask for more. You can request up to there's certain levels, and we're going to get to that. But there's certain levels. If you're a level 1, it's up to 200. If your budget is up to 250 or 239, but we're going to go through that, so I don't have to. There's also a grant called Underserved Cultural Community Development, and you have to have a total operating income of $150,000 or less, but you have to be a 501c3. This is not available to artists. For individual artist projects, you must be a Florida resident. You must have to prove that you're a Florida resident for at least a year. And you must be a professional artist. This is something that you earn your living doing. And again, if you have any questions about your status, give them a call, and they can walk you through the criteria. And I also have some copies. I have a copy of the artist grant that I can send to the when we send out this link. But all of that is on the website. Sometimes it's just easier to find and just press a button. And here you see the maximum amount that can be requested for specific cultural projects. And these are all matching. So you've got to match these dollars. This is not just a grant. So you have to match it with either in-kind or revenue or some sort of program support or your own operating capacity. So it's it does require a matching component. said, you must also, all organizations must have a DUNS number. And again, if you don't have a DUNS number, there's a link to direct you to the right website so that you can get that. All applicants must file a substitute W-9 within the state of Florida. And again, it's different from a regular W-9 because you're anticipating being a vendor to the state of Florida. So it's specific to the state of Florida. And again, there's a link on this that directs you right to that site. The review criteria changed this year. And there used to be four areas. Now they've broken it down to just 3, so it's a little more easier to review. The most important ones are the ones that rank 35%. Quality of offerings, impact, and track record. And we're going to go over those 3 briefly. What are quality of offerings? Your mission statement, and even if you're an artist, you should have a statement of your kind of a standard of what you are as an artist, and about the project that you're submitting, your program description, your partnerships and collaboration, and this is really key. I was talking to Pepperoni. I'm sorry, I forgot your name. Pepperonia. And being a partner, they did some filming at Heathcote, and that's really important. Other community organizations that you worked with are very critical to that grant. So, and that's really the strength. It will strengthen your application. The evaluation plan. How do you know you achieve success? And that's what the evaluation evaluation plan is. How many non-school-based children attended your events? How many tourists? Impact? How many artists? So there's some specific information within the grant that you'll be able to share to describe how you will review and assess the project. And then in this area, it's also attachment and support materials. And this is a really critical thing. Any PDFs, any support materials, any letters of support are very important. Your substitute W-9 gets uploaded here because you'll print a copy off of the state website, and then you'll attach it in this required attachments. So you've got, I think it's 10. There's a certain megabytes that you can't extend, but it's within your discipline. There's specific information that they look for. But if you're getting several letters of support for your organization, go ahead and scan them and create one PDF as opposed to having one of every letter. So if you get a letter from, Chris Sadowski, the commissioners, or the Wayne Gent from the school district, or your board president, that could be separate, but it could also be bundled in your letters of appreciation, letters of support, that talk about the impact that you are making within the community. So it's really vital to show the reviewers that that you're supporting your narrative in the grant. Any questions about that? So impact is up to 35 points as well, and then it is, number of people, location, reach of your program, the economic impact. If you are doing an event and it's a ticketed event, where do people come from? Are we drawing tourists? Are we drawing people from outside the state? So, you know, what is the economic impact to the community? Are you employing other vendors, other artists, those in the creative class? All that information is important. And then your marketing and promotion. What are you doing? You know, how are you using social media? How are you leveraging your limited dollars? Because many nonprofits and artists, this is an area where they don't have a lot of money. So really social media. Talk about what you're doing, your marketing plan, if it's for a specific project, how are you going to achieve the success through this vehicle. And then most importantly, if you're having an event at a venue, how are they accessed to those who may be who have some limitations? So there's are they ADA compliant? Are there visual? Is it a visual event? Are they doing anything for a wide range of audiences? And again, when you get into the grant, you'll see there are a lot of tools. There is something from the 504 report that for first-time grantees, it's an abbreviated checklist. But the onus is on you to go through this workbook and understand what it means to have a facility that's accessible to everyone. And again, the other component, the third criteria is track record, and that is your really kind of what you look like on paper. And that is your evaluation plan, your operating budget, your fiscal condition. The state is embarking, taking a leap of faith in granting these funds. Do you have the capacity to do what you say you're going to do? So, how long have you been in operation? So it's a lot of the budgeting and narrative about sustainability, fiscal sustainability. You may have some funding that's coming in the next quarter, and it's not reflected on your finances, so you can add that information. But the idea is that you want to give them as much information to prove that you are worthy and that you can accomplish what you say you're going to accomplish in your program goals. And again, if you have somebody that's a finance person, you can kind of tag team the grant and have that, your director of finance or operations, that person can do that budget for you. So it's one less thing on the end. And again, that has really been invaluable in the grants that I've written, is to have to split the offerings, split up the process. This is the rubric for how the panel, how your grant will be reviewed. So it's very, it enumerates a lot of detail, but it's excellent, good, fair, and weak. And as I said earlier, you must score 80% or higher to get into that queue for funding. So please look at this. It's very it's very detailed, and it's important for you to detail your grant, to create benchmarks and measurable, and whether it's with your goals and with your objectives. I'm going to increase attendance by 20%. Like if it's a garden, we're going to increase program participation by 30%. because your narrative may include some of those activities that will allow you to get to that higher level. Because that's the whole goal, is to build the arts and cultural capacity in our community. I like to say grant writing is aspirational, because this is what I can do. If I have this, money's the tool. This is what I can do if I have this bolus of money. This is the impact we can make.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Can you say that again? I want to get that on tape. Money is what? The tool?
Well, money is the tool, but grant writing is aspirational. This is my personal opinion. I'm stepping back.
Okay.
But and write it that way. It's money allows, the funds allow you to, create communities, to change lives, to educate, to make a difference, to reduce poverty through a program that you're performing. So it is an important part, but it is, and that's the message that you want to share. What are you changing? What are you affecting? And use action. Yeah, I use action verbs when I'm writing a grant, and I can add my list back to you as well. It's been really important. And just to I'll give you a list. This was from the Elliott Museum several years back when we were doing the campaign. But increase educational programs for children and adults by 25% over the next 2 years. Improve visitor knowledge and understanding of museum collections. Increase attendance. Integrate programs in the website. Expand marketing efforts. Increase membership. Annual giving. Again, it's action. Your objectives should be action words and impactful things that can be measured. It sounds hard, but it really it takes a little bit of thought when you're writing this. And I hope I didn't confuse you too much.
Can you include that
Yeah, and the great and the DCA has some wonderful. This is mine. I'd be happy to do that. But they're on their website. They have examples, and there's a lot of things. But I'd be happy to. But the grants that I want you to look at are the ones that are most recent. And so there may be. I don't want to, but I'd be happy to share them. So this is the DOSgrants.com is where you will begin your grant. So this is where the application resides. So if you haven't already, go in and log on to DOSgrants.com, Department of State. And at the end of this grant, I have all the lists. But it is, so you've got the Department of State Division of Cultural Affairs website, and this is separate. And you can get on this site through there, but you do have to register here. Some application tips. Quality, not quantity. On the application, you'll see there is a word limitation, a character limitation, 2,500, 500. Really, it's you don't have to. This is not the encyclopedia. There are several grant reviewers that will go through this. So your narrative really has to be clear and concise, and really, the messaging of the impact that you're going to make has to come through. So don't think you have to, if it says 5,000 words, don't think you have to put 5,000 characters. So just make sure that you are covering the information that the grant requires. Goals, objectives, and activities. The goal, do you all know the difference? As I said, the objectives are very specific, and then your activities are how you're gonna get to success. Copy and paste, you can work online, work on, Word document, use formatting, use bullets. Again, make it easy for people to read if you've got some statistics. It's really important. Use the rubric. That is that chart that has the percentages of impact, quality of project. Those are two things. When you leave today, get online and log in to DOS.com, or DOSgrants.com, and then on the DCA grant, the link that you'll have, print out the rubric, because there's a separate one for artists, and while there are a lot of similarities, you do want to use that. That is like the Bible, and that's how you craft your grant. So these are the program managers and the disciplines that they oversee. You will get to know them. Please don't be a stranger. If you have any questions, call for artists. It's her website, her login is Janice, but she goes by Hillary. And I don't know if we're ready, if she's on, because she's going to be logging in to take your questions, because I'm really, I'm not the expert on everything. Go ahead.
I just want to let everybody know that you can watch on Tuesday afternoons, they'll send you a link and you can go and watch them and talk directly to them.
Right, here it is, the virtual office hours. And yeah, Tuesdays and Thursdays. And it's a great opportunity if you want to see. Hillary also did the same presentation. It's on YouTube if you want to, if you feel like you want to hear her discussion. It's on. If you go to YouTube, just type in Division of Cultural Affairs grant, and it's very informative. It's there's a little deep dive in certain areas. The grant resources are here. General information, DOS.myflorida.com, general program support guidelines, specific cultural projects, the scoring rubrics, and any kind of calendars with the deadlines. It's very clear cut, but and then there's some upcoming webinars. If you have some questions, we're 35 days out.
The three of us are from Port St. Lucie Botanical Gardens.
Okay.
Could you speak a little bit more about the matching funds and how that works? Is it due right when you get the grant, or can we spread that over our yearly budget?
Because you're anticipating, you're doing your budget. When you open up the budget component, you're gonna put last year's P&L, you're gonna put this year's P&L, and then you're gonna put your projected budget that includes the 25,000. And then of that 25,000, you have to do a cash or in-kind match. Now those matches can be attended, it could be from membership revenue, it could be from events, it could be from donors. It just can't be from other state funds. Like if you got a grant from, NEA or the Florida Humanities Council, you can't use that. You have to, it has to be revenue because you're leveraging these dollars to increase your dollars because it really, it's a multiplier effect.
So we would be using a percentage of our donations or our memberships towards that.
You can, when you, and let me see if I can find a sample of a budget. You know, it's, when you get into grant, you can see that, you've got your requests, and you put your request in, and again, as a new organization, it's gonna be 25,000, and then you've got your cash income, and then you've got, if you've got in-kind, you can use in-kind, and you can use, programs, any kind of revenue that, to offset it. For instance, if you're writing a grant to do a presentation, to do a plant sale or a big fundraiser, that additional revenue, you can say, this is the grant, I'm using this, I'm using salary. It could be for salary assistance, it could be for marketing. So you're gonna offset that by all those, the goal is that your revenue, that the grant funds will increase your.
So we're using that increase for our 12.5.
I'm sorry?
We're using that increase from the grant to offset what we owe.
Yeah, don't use the word "oh," but it's, for instance, because you get a quarterly payment. For instance, you know, first quarter you'll get your percentage, and then in order to get the next quarterly payment, you have to substantiate that with expenses that you have said, this is what we're gonna do with this money. So if you're saying, I'm using this money for marketing and promotions, then your expenses have to be, you have to support,
Okay.
you have to, when you go in and, okay. Oh good, Hillary just joined. And she can answer some, well, let's see. Laney? Lenny? Where am I? Where am I? Here we go. Hey! Can everybody see Hillary?
Yes. You're muted.
She's muted. That's everyone's muted.
Hello? Can you hear us?
She's muted.
Offsets.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, great. Oh, thank goodness. No, welcome.
Thank you.
This is Hillary Crawford. I'll let you introduce yourself and open the floor up for questions.
Hi, I'm Hillary Crawford. I'm a program manager at the Florida Division of Cultural Affairs, and I serve over the individual application categories.
Now, to the group, does anybody have any questions for Hillary? Oh, yes, okay. I do. Okay, we'll go.
We were talking about matching funds, for example, and revenue. Suppose you were trying to get, this for workshops that were not going to bring in revenue, but they were going to bring in students and kids and adults from the community. Is that what you mean by in kind? Or, in other words, people would be donating or giving of their time to teach whatever these workshops are, but we wouldn't necessarily be charging for the workshops. So we wouldn't be actually able to match an incoming amount of money.
Right, so the way that in-kind work is you're receiving credit for the value of a donation. So in the income section, you're only going to accredit for any cash expenses that you're matching. the in-kind will only be shown in the expense portion as a value. So if you had teachers that were donating their time, that would be a donated good or service. And so you would be able to give them credit at whatever the going rate of service is for whatever that service is. So, you know, if you would usually pay them $20 an hour to teach class, and they were teaching for, you know, 5 hours, then you would count $100 for that teacher. And so that would show up though only in the expenses because there's no money associated with in-kind. So within the individual applications, you have a 50% match of the request, but it can be cash or in-kind.
Great, thank you.
I had the same question.
Okay.
I have a question. I'm an art teacher at a public school. So can I be the grant writer and we're using is that can I bridge that in? Like when you're talking about impacting underserved communities and art education and things like that, I have a slew of incredible students, high school students. So to try and make some sort of a bridge from, you know, just being, just giving them another platform when they graduate, like trying to get them to use the work in my classroom, but then maybe sell the work outside.
So there's only 3 areas that you're able to apply to us for funding. What we
Okay.
offer funding for is we offer funding for the artist performances on tour. Those are when artists are going outside of their community into rural and underserved areas, presenting, programming, and doing educational activities in the schools. There's also the opportunity for teaching artists. Those are professional artists who are going into the schools and working with teachers to do arts integration and provide those services. And then the third category is the artist projects. And so that is Florida artists that are creating and presenting original works of art.
Okay.
So that would be what you would be looking for. And so it doesn't sound like what you just described would be one of those things. However, if your school district has like a foundation or something, we do have schools that come in and apply for like residency programs and things like that.
Okay.
The last, on the list that Hillary, can Hillary hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, the last thing that you said on that list, I didn't hear that, but it sounded like something I needed to hear. Would you mind repeating that?
That was the artist projects category? Is that
Okay,
what you're talking about?
yeah, there was 3 things that you said. There was one.
Yeah, so the artist projects is for Florida resident professional artists to present original works of art. So, we've had, for example, several films that have been funded through that. We've had a playwright that has been funded, several actually plays, some choreographers, an artist that did exhibition in Palm Beach County. We had an artist that did a series of pop-up events along with sort of like a long-term installation project. So those are the kind of works that we're funding through that. But it wouldn't be like, you wouldn't put on a production of someone else's work, you know, it would be your own original work.
Okay.
And so a long time ago, we had a program called the Fellowship Program that funded artists. It recognized really the body of their work. However, we were no longer able to have that funded by the legislature. So what we have come up with is the artist projects, which basically they're projects very similar to things a lot of times that have been done by organizations, but they're driven by artists featuring their original work.
Any other comments or questions for Hillary?
Hillary, question for you. When you're looking at these grant applications, is there any leeway given to organizations or people that are applying for the first time? Or is a first-time writer competing with a well-experienced organization?
Well, so all of our grants are divided and reviewed on a peer basis, and so they're reviewed with other similar applications. So all of the artist projects are reviewed together, and then the teaching artists and the artist performances on tour are reviewed either with the artist or with arts education, because they actually technically are under arts education. But so you're always comparing similar things. There is a rubric that we provide that shows you what the panel is looking for. And of course, to a certain degree, you know, the main thing is that you want to make sure that you're conveying your project, and also because this is really meant more for artists that are either mid-career or at least somewhat established, you're going to want to make sure that you're showing, you know, the body of your work that you've done so far, and projects that indicate that you will be capable of completing what you are proposing. And anything you can do, and we understand that you're applying a long time out, so for instance, the girl that did the exhibition in Palm Beach County, she was matching a Knight Foundation grant. So, you know, there were some things that she had to wait to kind of flesh out later in terms of securing all the funding, but you do have that time. And then when we come around for the contract phase, we will actually write what legally binds you to an agreement with the state. So if something happens with your matching or your funding, or something changes about the project, then we can make those changes once the funding has been appropriated. And if for some reason you're either not able to accept the award or only able to accept a part of the award, we can make those adjustments at that time.
Thank you.
Yeah, we didn't really go into that much depth about the artist information. So any other questions that?
I'm just gonna throw this question out there. Just say like an individual artist have an opportunity to showcase their, collection, I don't know, someplace in like Paris, in like a museum. Would you guys fund something like that?
Would it be work that had been made by you?
Yeah, like an original, yeah. Like.
So we have had similar things. I mean, part of this, there's two parts to the artist project. There's actually the work, and then there's also the sharing it with the public. So that would, you know, take care of that part. But you would also want to make sure, because you have to have expenses that are associated with it. So it might be, you know, that you're paying to have the catalog published, or you're paying to have things framed, or you're paying to have, if it's a traveling show, we've had people pay, you know, to have crates made. So just one of the things that you want to consider is, what are you asking for state funds to pay for? And, you know, what is it a reasonable ask? Because that's one of the things, you know, with Department of Financial Services, that they put the burden on us as contract managers to make sure, you know, that the funds are reasonable.
Okay, so in that case, it might be a judgment call.
It might be what?
A judgment call. In some cases, it might be a judgment call, you know.
I don't know that it would be, you know, a judgment call, but it would, like, if you said, I need $25,000 to sit somewhere for 5 minutes and show my painting, like, obviously that's not reasonable. So, I mean, I think it's just more, one of the things that you can look at is, like, if you were gonna do this without any money from the state, what would the cost be? What would you need to pay for? And so, you know, having that idea, so if you're working with an institution, you might ask them what funds. I mean, most institutions, when they do a show, they incur the costs, and they get the work on loan from the artist. So if it were something that you were kind of publishing or whatever, then you would probably reach out to them and want to have a conversation as far as what you would need to be paying for.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Jeannie?
I have a question. If you have a project that's a new idea, and you haven't, I mean, it's a one-time new idea, like involving community and art and the history of the community to help to promote awareness and value in the community, how are you gonna have a one-year, I'm not sure what you called it before, it was on one of your lists, one-year track record and P&Ls and all of that and budget to pull from if it's a new idea? Or do you have to trial balloon it somewhere and then approach the grant process?
So the 1 year of programming and the last completed fiscal year's budget, those are requirements that are for organizations.
Okay.
We don't ask that of individuals. What we ask of individuals is you provide your resume, and you speak to any experience you have that would be related to the project that you're proposing. So we have had people that have done, kind of one-time things. It would just, and if you wanna, try to talk to me about that individually, we can do that and kind of see exactly what.
Oh, she's gone.
What happened?
Yeah, it's buffering.
Yeah.
Okay, let's give it a second.
Mostly answer that.
No. We went down.
It's the
I won't be
big-
surprised. Yeah, this is gets to everything. Boy, I don't know.
Are we an artist? Yes. She's good, she's good.
We applied for. The general. Yes. Yeah, and so I wanna make sure, can we, it would seem reasonable if we're able to do that.
General programs
Yep.
and specific projects. Yeah, let me go to worksheet one more time. That's what I will, you know, I still feel it from my whole staff.
We can do it before the fire. Right, because they would need to break it up, grant out that.
While we catch this break, I'm just going to leave this up here, if anyone forgot to sign in, with the pictures, if you can sign in. Thank you. Right, we're trying to resolve it, we're watching on the other end, sorry about that.
I don't know if it's, because I logged in with you all.
It'll come to me in a second.
The other, with your question, did you say something to me? I'm saying, this, I was logged in on yours. Where you were in.
Oh, yes, and that's okay, I think it's pretty much starting monthly, or hours. So we're trying to, the other thing is, it's the in-kind that will help us go out and share our work and put it in.
Did everybody include their email?
I think when we register online, there was an email.
And I think if you put artist or organization, we'll send you. Those are the files.
Yes.
The artist, we'll send specifically to
So what we're thinking is that would be 2 separate grants, because there would be a general purpose grant, which would be a general program and then one for you under specific artists.
We have a pretty outstanding art department that,
My notes.
and next year we're going into the 18, 3D, so, we're really building,
I'm reporting email on that, it was like, it would seem reasonable that in the grant process anyway. So we can.
Alright, so I have Hillary on the,
Some goal.
education.
All right, guys, I have Hillary on the phone until we try to get this connected, so if you have any questions, let's go ahead and shoot them.
Sure. Hi, Hillary. How are you? So I have a question. I come from a nonprofit organization in Port St. Lucie. Is it possible for the organization to apply for both types of grants? One under general programming and the other one under specific?
No, we do have a limitation.
Can everybody hear?
Just because of the limit for, being able to fund more people. So each organization or FEIN number is limited to one, either general program support or specific cultural project. The only exception to that is multi-purpose institutions, so usually like universities or municipalities where, say, for an example, like Broward County has Broward County Cultural Affairs, and then they also have the Performing Arts Center.
What about a garden?
Well, London County, but they also are able to be eligible on their own except for the FEIN number. So that's usually where we get.
This is a question, and I'm gonna let it go and release to others. So you mentioned the multidisciplinary, and I'm wondering, would that include botanical gardens?
Yes.
Well, no, I was talking about multi-purpose institutions.
Right. So then we're not.
Gardens
Yes.
usually apply.
They have an exhibition space.
I beg your pardon? So botanical gardens usually come to museums.
Yeah, we fund like Selby Botanical Garden, we fund a lot. We have planetariums, botanical gardens, Murakami is in there, I'm trying to think. We also do, planetarium, botanical garden, zoos is under there, yeah, those are all under.
So would that be Sarah's stage that the botanical garden should speak to then?
Yeah, that's correct, yes. But again, like, that entity would only be able to apply for one grant.
And then Hillary, I think we're back on, so if you'd like to ask us to rejoin again, we'll be able to see your beautiful face and hear you as well.
Okay, hold on. Okay, hold on.
Yep, thank you so much. Alright.
Okay, so she'll come in. Yeah, I think you code the first
There she
year.
is, beautiful.
The first year we did multi, and then multidisciplinary, and then we did museum. So,
Yeah.
There are some people that do, multidisciplinary, but what I will say, cause I have managed both museums and multidisciplinary, is that really, I mean, I understand that your collection is different, and there is a collections, question, but if you don't have a, collection, you just kind of, it's answer not applicable, that you don't have that. But the concept of programming, what I kind of say is like, if you go to the FAM conference, you should be applying for museums. Cause I had people that would come in at multi, but then I'd see them at the FAM conference and I'd say, well, really, you should be applying for museums. And that is something that we feedback from, cause it's not truly multidisciplinary,
Thank you.
as I said, the first year I did multidisciplinary because I really didn't know. And then the second I did, because we did have collections. And a garden is a living museum.
And even if you don't have a collection, we have museums that don't have collections, and that's okay too.
What is it? Okay, naive question. What is a collection?
Just our collection.
Okay, that's simple.
You have
Good,
a
so-
garden, you have
We call it like our garden rooms or a part of that collection, or your plant collection. It's,
We have bonsai and art, you have sculptures.
sculptures too.
The butterfly garden.
other questions or?
All the plants in the garden is a collection.
Yeah, I get it now.
Shouldn't anything you could.
What, you wanna take a minute to explain it? Are you a professional artist or a nonprofit?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Go ahead.
So what about if you're just starting out, what would be the best approach to be involved in this?
The best approach what? I'm sorry.
Are you starting out as an artist?
Artist or, okay.
What would be the best approach for writing a grant?
That too. I'm not sure how to explain this, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
No, it's probably like what's the step one of what to do? So step one would be, I guess you become a 501(c) or something like that?
Well, not as a professional artist, you don't have to.
Oh, okay.
I mean, if you're wanting to get started as an artist, and one of the things that I suggest as far as if you're looking for funding is, look all over the place. So, you can look to your local arts agency, you can look to foundations, you can look to the National Endowment, you can look to us. There are a lot of different opportunities for artists to receive funding. The main thing is when you're looking, make sure that you read what they're funding, because you might want to do something that's not appropriate. For example, we have a limitation of $1,000 on any equipment. So if you were wanting to, start a studio for ceramics and buy, the things that you need for that, like, we wouldn't be a good fund for that, but there are other places that you could go for that type of thing. And so, internet research is helpful. Talking to other artists, getting involved if there's an arts guild or an arts group, participating in as many exhibitions as you can, and just really getting yourself out there.
And maybe Jeannie, you can share some information with her later, offline.
Sure.
With the Alliance.
If nobody else, I need a clarification. Somebody else go in front of me.
Who else?
I could wait.
Okay, alright, so my clarification is this, okay, so I'm gonna go back to the organization applying for a grant. And you said only one grant, an organization can only apply for one grant. So then, it may sound nickel and dimey, but I'm gonna go there. Can both apply, but only one gets it?
No, you have to choose what you apply
Alright,
for.
okay.
And so it's an annual thing, but you have to understand that we're getting funds from the Florida legislature, and so one of the things that we have to think about is the fact that there are 67 counties, really there's thousands of, we only fund about 600 organizations in the state, but there's really about 4,000 that are registered through Dunn. So, we just can't have that many applications, unfortunately.
Thank you.
But if you have questions about which, it would be a better fit for you, I would be happy to talk to you about that. If you want to email me, we can set up a time. It just kind of depends on what you're doing and what your goal is. I will say, I don't know if you guys have heard, but we've got the numbers in, and it looks like, our recommendation is 50% for general program support and full funding for specific cultural project, which is amazing. We usually average about 30% for general program support, and in the last 5 years, there have been 2 years that the specific cultural project has received no appropriation. So I'm super proud of all of our constituents, local arts agencies, Florida Cultural Alliance, and really the Florida legislature for showing up for us and realizing that arts is a huge part of the recovery, and they are supporting us. So we're really grateful.
Jeannie, and the gentleman in the back.
Hi, I'm with the Treasure Coast International Film Festival. It's over your 15th year. Can you hear me?
He's with the festival?
Yes.
Do you want, can you stand, maybe it's easier?
Project.
Project, okay.
And action. Yes, I'm with the film festival. We've been, this is gonna be our 15th year. Now, as far as funding is concerned, it's an annual event. How can we approach that? Does it need to be a 501c3? Because I know we work with other 501c3s every time we put it on, we don't necessarily have to. Is there any way to, work, as the Treasure Coast International Film Festival, to apply for grants?
So, we do film, funds at a lot of film festivals. I used to manage the media arts category, and, I couldn't understand, are you saying that you're not a 501c3?
When we work with a 501c3. The festival itself is not a 501c3.
So does that 501c3 also apply to the division separately, or?
That's a good question. That's what I'm saying. They might be applying, therefore they can't apply for this particular project.
Well, so two things. If they're not applying, then you could apply through them.
Okay.
And then if they are applying, I would suggest maybe consider becoming a 501c3 on your own right, just because it would open you up to so many other funding opportunities. I mean, there's really not much that funds if you're not a 501c3. So, I would definitely recommend that. And then as far as which one to apply for, we have two kind of variations. Some of the film festivals apply to projects. And so if you're only doing the festival, like that one thing, then usually that would be a project. We also have some festivals that apply for general program support, but most of those, in addition to the film festival, they have year-round programming. So it kind of just depends on where you fit in. And then the other thing about the project that's nice is you can request up to $25,000. So if you were doing general program support, and you had a really small budget, even at requesting 25% of your budget and looking at, usually you get 35% of what you request. This year, fortunately, we got 50%. You probably wouldn't even be able to request the $25,000 if you had a really small budget. So I would say apply for a project, partner with a 501c3. If they're already applying, then become a 501c3. But really, I would say become a 501c3 anyway.
Okay, now as far as the project is concerned, now, even applying as a project, that would have to be as a 501c3 also, right?
I missed that.
If I
Talk
apply,
about the budget?
if it's an annual project, okay, and I apply it, and we apply it as a project, would you still be requiring, the 501c3 to, be attached to it?
Yeah, so the basic eligibility is that you have to either be a 501c3 or a public entity.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Gina, no.
Go ahead. I was just gonna say, if, my notes, Hillary, can you tell them, like you told me yesterday, or whatever day it was, how not to be disappointed if you don't get it because of the number of people applying?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Well, I would say, yeah, don't be disappointed if you don't get. The other thing is that I tell people to start. I have people that have applied, multiple times. I had one guy, gosh, I think he applied 4 times before he finally got funded. The good news is that you have the opportunity to participate in the panel process, which a lot of places you don't have. I've lived and worked in other states where you just got a letter that told you whether or not you got the grant, but you didn't really know what happened. So because we have government in the sunshine, it's a public meeting. You will have the opportunity to announce yourself. You'll have the opportunity to give an update. And if the panelists have any questions, they can actually ask you, and you can give them more information. The other thing that happens is they can write comments in our system that you can then go back and read after the fact. So certainly it can be a thing where you might apply more than once, but you can get there, you just have to kind of work at it, sometimes. But other times you could be, top scoring, right out of the gate. It just kind of depends. Now we do offer sample applications on the website for every single category that we fund, and it's each one of them is the top scoring application in that section. So you can look at those and kind of get an idea of what has scored well in the past.
And to that end about the panel meetings, I have sat in, my grade usually comes around 12, or if they start at 9 a.m. And there's about 7 or 8 people on the panel, and it's really a great idea to if you can, to listen to the panelists from the beginning, because you realize that there's certain personalities that have certain key areas that they focus in. So it gives you an opportunity when your grant comes maybe some expected questions, or, you have a better idea, in the sense of, what their concerns are and what their interests are. And, so if you have the time, those panel meetings are just essential to your grant and, for feedback.
And really, any of the panel meetings, they're all public, so if you go to our website in the calendar, because as a program manager, I had, I think, like 11 panels last year, but we do 27 panels in the whole season. So I actually work with other people for their panels. So, I've listened every year to about 30 panels. So just in the last 6 years, I've learned so much just from hearing all the different things and questions, and it makes me a better administrator, hearing that. So all of the meetings are public, and you're more than welcome, to listen in if you're interested.
Jeannie?
I have one more question. Can you tell me what tab these sample applications are under? The tab on the website?
I'm gonna send you this, PowerPoint, this PDF, and you can go in, it'll have a link directly to, the DCA's, website, and.
Right, but-
I don't know.
And anything that you're looking for, if you're actually on the website, there's a tab that says grants.
Yeah.
And there's like a grants resources, and then also if you go into each program. But I think actually just in the grants tab, it says, example applications.
And somebody else has a
I don't know how many individual artists are here, but I'm one.
Me too, I'm one.
In years past, this is not a grant question, but in years past, I've had, private shows in the Rotunda in Tallahassee in several different spots. And I responded to the artist, call for artists, and had several paintings purchased by the state. Are those programs still going? I haven't checked in several years.
I'm not sure about the Rotunda, I don't.
I had it in the governor's
that
office.
space.
I also had in the governor's office in a couple of different places, a private show that was hung for a couple of months. Are they still doing that?
Right, so I'm not sure who runs those programs because those spaces are different. The program that we run is the exhibition space that is on the 22nd floor, and Rochelle Ashmore runs that, and there's information on our website about that.
Okay.
There are other programs, the governor's office does, that's usually handled through the curator that works at the governor's mansion. And so they have exhibitions at the house, and then also sometimes they will loan or purchase things for the governor's office, but we don't specifically handle that. The other thing that we do have a Department of State art collection. Most of those paintings have been donated, but we loan those out to members of the House and Senate.
Or can I find those online, or those on your website, as well as your grant information?
Yes, the information about the 22nd floor is on our website, and the person that handles that, her name is Rochelle Ashmore.
And you don't know if the call to artists, when when the state is purchasing paintings, if that is still functioning?
I don't, that's not something that we do, that would be, I think that's another entity. Now, we do have art and state buildings, but that is a program where when construction happens and funds are appropriated by the state, they can do 0.5% up to $100,000, but that is handled by the individual institution, and they either commission new works or purchase existing works.
I think that's what I'm talking about, because it was
Yeah, so those things are on our website. If you look at opportunities, if there is an institution that has had funds appropriated through the state for construction, they would issue a call to artists there.
Gotcha.
But we only aid them in the process because those funds are appropriated to them, and so it's their property.
Well, that's exciting. You shown several times up in the Capitol.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Hillary, we are a 501c3, we're a ceramic arts studio. What category are we? Who do I deal with in your office?
You would be visual arts, and it would be Danila Coppola.
Thank you.
That's who I mispronounced as Danica earlier.
Oh, yeah.
On your email
Oh,
at 6:45 this morning.
yeah.
Any other questions for Hillary? As I said earlier, Hillary has been an incredible resource. I think the first time I submitted the grant for Vanity Center, we didn't get our budget numbers didn't jive that were input, and it was very traumatic. It was a terrible weekend. It was, I think, Friday night that 5 o'clock wall went down, and fortunately, Hillary gave us another opportunity. So not only is she brilliant, but she has a heart, and like I said, DCA wants to make sure that that we have everybody submit a grant, and whatever they can do to bring your grant to fruition, to help you, they are available. So, is there any other questions for Hillary? Hillary, thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely.
It's just been a lot of fun, and as I said, I'm not a grant writer, but as I said, we write this aspirationally. You are passionate, you're artists, you're creative people. There's lots of great examples, and whatever the Alliance can do to help bring your grant to fruition, to assist your organization or artists, we're here. So.
Well, and Leonia is also a great grant writer herself, so she's a good resource too.
Yeah. So thank you, Hillary.
Thank you.
Any other remarks, any kind of pitch that you want to make, or?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, just start early and save often.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's true. Oh gosh. Well, it's been fun. This is my first, like I said, I'm not a grant person per se, but I've enjoyed writing them. I've toiled and sweated, and my advice is just start it today. Whatever we can do to be a resource, we're here.
So please grab our business cards. Like Hillary said, I've been writing grants for the last 25 years, and I've been both on the panel for Florida Department of State as well as Maryland as well. So I have a little bit of experience, and I'll gladly answer any questions. I want to echo what Diane was saying about starting early and not being daunted by it, because it is very frightening. But the earlier you start, the more relieved you're going to be. That I promise you. This is not the kind of grants that you want to leave to us. And again, if you have any questions. How many are actually members of the Alliance here? Can you guys raise your hands? If you're not, we're building an army, and we cannot do this on our own. So my plea to you guys is please join, help us get the word out. We're committed to building a landscape here in the county and in Treasure Coast, and we cannot do without your help. So we're also going to be doing a survey after this. Please take a moment to respond to it. Give us your feedback. We need this for ourselves so we can improve the experience here, and also as we do grants. So we can find you. We are going to be starting our own grant program. Initially, we're still building up a little pot, so it's going to take us a little time, but there's mini grants will be coming your way sometime in June. We're gonna wait for you guys to finish this first, and then we'll announce our grants. We're doing a lot of different events to help to build that pot, so we can give you more funding. One of the examples is the mindfulness event that we're doing. It's Treasure Coast Arts and Mindfulness Festival. All the proceeds from that event is going to go directly into the granted pot. So again, we need your help. Get involved as a volunteer, get a tent, be a part of it. Help us get the word out. we can only do this as an army. We cannot do this by ourselves. So please grab a brochure for the information that, this has both membership information and information about the festival. Our business cards are here, have some food, and please talk amongst yourselves. Because it's really important for, as when I judge any kind of grants, I always look at partnerships and any kind of solidification of the partnership. So if you just say, I'm gonna be a partner, and you don't provide any backup, I don't buy it. And I'm a bad person to be about, because I'm really critical. I think it's important for you guys to think ahead. So talk among yourselves, see if there's any connection here. If you need some other connections or for us to connect you to other members, artists, and arts organizations, again, we're here for you. And I'm not
And just to make a pitch again, to purchase the Arts License Plate, those funds
I have one
go
of those.
directly to, the Arts Alliance, and, we're just.
And to you, because that's part of the grants plan as well. All the money we get from the license plates, all of it directly to you.
So, myself, like I said earlier, I'm an art teacher at Fort Pierce Central High School, and we've been building a massive art program. And then you have the Fort Pierce, the Fort Pierce Magnet program. But there's no place here to showcase our work. It would really be
Yeah, there
nice. Oh, there is? Cause we've been showcasing work at the Rooster in the Garden, which is like super duper tiny. We have AP art programs, we have kids going to scholarship and SCAD and RISD, and it's really sad that I can't, I'm new here, I came from Miami, so I don't have all these, roots here, but I really need to get involved with people.
You do, first of all, and let me just,
Okay.
I've been here for less than a year.
Yeah.
And the first thing that I realized when I spoke to different artists is there are 4 things that are lacking in this count. You got the first one, venues. Where do artists perform and exhibit? So we've been collaborating with lots of local businesses to begin to provide those venues for you.
Okay.
This is one of them.
Okay.
We're also working with 7 Gables. We're also going to be working with 500 Avenue Building that just opened, the new event center. We are displaying at public buildings such as the admin buildings, courthouses. So we will find a place to exhibit your kids' work. So that's the first thing we did. The second thing is funding, obviously. So we're working on that next. And that we are going to be using the money from the license plates, the funds that we get from our memberships, the funds that we get through special events that we're putting in place. So I'm committed to growing that up. Right now, we have about $40,000 that I'll be able to give out. It's not a lot of money, but it's the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And then after several years, I'll be able to go to the federal funding to get matching funds. I'll be able to go to businesses and say, we have this money already, we've got granted this amount. So it's a process. That's the second thing. The third thing is marketing. So we've been working very diligently to make sure that e-blasts go out, that we pay money behind social media advertising, that we advertise. We're doing a magazine with Stuart. I'm so sad that it hasn't been about. I get this to the fitness house right now, but it's going to be Martin County on one side with the magazine, and it's going to be Arts and Music, exactly. And it's going to be exhibit, distributed here and in Martin County. So we are collaborating on that as well. That's to begin. I'm sure there's something else.
It's amazing what she's accomplished with the board, and, it's, 2 people here. So collaboration is key, and at some point it would be great to have, like the Martin County has the Martys for high school students, a jury art show, that we could create like the St. Lucy's or
We
something
used
here
to
in
have
St.
the
Lucie.
Lucy Awards. We had the Lucy Awards during the Cultural Alliance back in 2004 through 2008, before they shut us down. They've shut it, let me just tell you one thing you've got to do as artists.
Well, let's look forward.
That's what I'm saying, as far as going forward, one thing you have to do is let your legislators and your commissioners and everyone else know that you are a power in this county. Because they do not see you as an economic engine. They are starting to. Thank goodness they're bringing it back. But you need to be able to write a letter and say, please support the local artists. Please support the local art cultural alliance. Please support us because we generate money. And that's the only way we're gonna get anywhere.
Can I also just share, thank you, Jeannie, for bringing this list, because I think it's an opportunity to say thank you.
Yep.
And oftentimes people wanna be recognized for the work they've done before we go back and ask them again.
Yeah.
But say thank you for their commitment to the arts by raising that amount from 30 cents on the dollar to 50% for cultural and museum programs, and then 100% for Cultural Builds Florida. So if you know Gail Harrell, if you know Dana Trabolsi, she's in the House, and and Gail is in the Senate, longtime member, thank them for their
And we'll
commitment.
send you an email with that linked information as well. We ask you that you guys please follow up. But we'll include all of that information, I'll follow up email.
Yeah.
And also don't forget our officials, so when it comes to our county executives,
Please.
they're making this happen, and they have faith in us. So please send them an email. We have a great partnership with Port St. Lucie. Who's here from Port St. Lucie? Beautiful. The city committed $10,000 for the granting pot for us. So let's let them know how grateful we are for that. I'm working with Fort Pierce to see if they will match it as well. We're getting there. But Port St. Lucie has been amazing when it comes to our partnerships. And they're collaborating with us on the Mindfulness Festival as well. It's a joint partnership with us. So yes, gratitude goes a long, long way.
And if you have a moment, write a little card, send it, thank you very much, I attended the grant writing for this organization, it was wonderful, thank you for funding it. It keeps the money flowing into us, because if they can spend $50 million on the Met Stadium, you need to realize that they can spend money on you. And that's the understanding that you generate money.
And call us, let us know what you guys need. This is your organization. You're not here to serve us, we're here to serve you. So if you have special needs, if you have any interest, if you'd like to see something happen in the county, let you know, let us know, and we will do whatever we can to make it happen. And then get involved. You need volunteers, committees, the more you put into this organization, the more the organization will get back to you. That I promise you. And the more the county's gonna get back to you.
So stick around, there's still some refreshments
And
here
talk.
and network, and I'll stick around, and if I can be a resource, and Alona.
Aliona, everybody.
Alright, so then good, I'll email you.
My whole life, I have my whole life.